Hey, what's up guys? Jakey here. I'm a top 400 Radiant Valorant player, and today I'm going to be giving my full in-depth review of the G Pro Superlight 2. So when the G Pro Superlight 2 first came out, I actually did make an initial video on it, comparing it with the original G Pro Superlight. So this video is more so going to be focused on the performance so far of the G Pro Superlight 2 on its own, rather than comparing it to the original. But if you guys missed that first video, basically, the rundown is the only difference between the G Pro Superlight 2 and the original G Pro Superlight is the clicks are now optical. They're actually a hybrid optical mechanical switch, and you can choose for it to only be optical if you'd like. So that's one difference. The other difference is obviously the sensor implementation is a little bit different. They're using a different sensor, which I believe goes up to a higher DPI, but most importantly, now supports 2000 Hertz polling rate. And then the third minor difference is they changed the shape of the bottom skate here. They made it a little bit longer into a U shape. I'm not sure why they did this. Literally, I think the only reason was to screw over third-party manufacturers for skates. Not sure why Logitech would do that, but it just makes it so that you can't use any pre-existing skates and you have to order completely new ones. But other than that, everything else is pretty much identical. The scroll wheel feeling when you press down mouse 3 and also when you're just using the scroll wheel, as well as the side buttons, feel completely the same as the original Superlight. With that being said, if you've never used a Superlight before, the scroll wheel is pretty smooth. There are defined steps, but it's definitely not as loud as something like a Zowie scroll wheel. So you can definitely feel the steps, and it is pretty tactile, but at the same time, it's not super loud. Mouse 3 is pretty easy to push down. It's tensioned pretty well. The side buttons are probably the worst part about the G Pro Superlight. I don't know how Logitech haven't improved these side buttons, but there is quite a bit of pre-travel and a lot of post-travel. Just pretty mushy side buttons in general on the G Pro Superlight. And obviously the G Pro Superlight 2 hasn't changed much from the original. With that being said, they are still pretty mushy side buttons. Definitely not ideal, but if you don't use the side buttons often, you probably won't care about something like this. Like I said earlier, the other big difference is the main clicks. The clicks on the new G Pro Superlight 2, since they're using that hybrid switch, you can hear it right now, it is a little bit more tactile than the original G Pro Superlight. The switches, some people say they feel heavier, but in my opinion, they're around the same force to actuate. They're definitely still very spammable, so if that's your concern, don't be concerned. They're definitely still very spammable. You can still use this for, you know, if you're playing like League of Legends or like Minecraft PvP, you can definitely still spam this very, very fast. But it is more tactile. Like, the switch is noticeably louder on the G Pro Superlight 2 than the original G Pro Superlight. If you put them side by side, which I actually do in my original video, you can actually hear that the G Pro Superlight 2 is much louder when you click down. But I actually prefer that. Some people hate the new clicks. I'm actually one of the people who really like it. I like the fact that it's more tactile and that it sounds a little bit more crispy. I'm actually a fan of it. Okay, so let's talk about the skates. With the stock skates, I was never a fan of the stock skates on any of the G Pro, even like the original G Pro and the G Pro Superlight. I was never a fan of the stock skates, and a lot of people aren't a fan of the stock skates because they're simply not that good. I mean, they're serviceable for stock skates, but they're very, very thin, and especially on my Artisan Zero mousepad, I noticed that the stock skates on the G Pro Superlight were very, very scratchy. I actually didn't have this issue on control pads like the VAX CPA that I'm on right now. The GSR2 from Zowie as well. I had no issues with the stock skates. They weren't really scratchy, but for some reason on my Artisan Zero Soft, I noticed that the stock skates on the G Pro Superlight were very scratchy. As you can obviously see, these are not the stock skates. I actually swapped them out for the Tiger Ice skates. So currently I have the Tiger Ice skates on the G Pro Superlight 2, and they've been perfect so far. Very, very smooth on every mousepad I've tried them on. I would highly recommend swapping out these stock skates on the G Pro Superlight to aftermarket skates if you can, but if it's not within your budget, you don't have to. The stock skates are definitely serviceable, but they're not the best out of the box. Okay, so let's move on to shape and performance. Shape of the G Pro Superlight hasn't changed from the original, obviously. If you've never used a G Pro Superlight before, the best way I can describe the shape is basically just a very safe potato shape. It's, I would say it's a medium-sized mouse. My hands are around 19 centimeters by 9 centimeters, and I can claw grip this mouse very comfortably. I could even palm grip it if I wanted to. Fingertip as well works very well. In general, Logitech just made a very, very safe shape here. So this is a shape that will fit most people's hands and most grip styles. Like I could palm grip, claw grip, fingertip, and they all feel good on this mouse. With that being said, this mouse is definitely not gonna fit you like a glove. Like there's definitely shapes out there. For me personally, like something like the Endgame XM1, what else? The Pulsar X2, those shapes are more comfortable for me in my hand. Even something like the Vaxi XE is more comfortable than the G Pro Superlight shape for me, in my opinion. The reason why this mouse is so popular is just because the shape is very safe and it just fits 90% of people. Like 90% of people could put their hand on the G Pro Superlight and feel good using it. So moving on to sensor performance, obviously I've been running this at 2K Hertz polling rate. I'll actually show you guys my settings here in the Logitech G Hub software. So this is Logitech G Hub. In game, 2K Hertz versus 1K Hertz. Can I notice the difference? The answer is no, I cannot. It feels exactly the same as my original G Pro Superlight. On paper, 2K Hertz is better than 1K Hertz. So, you know, take that how you will. I definitely don't feel a difference in game though. But these are my settings for the G Pro Superlight 2. So if we actually go into here, I have a custom preset here and I play on 800 DPI. The most important thing is you change the wireless report rate to 2000 Hertz. And then the wired has to be on 1000, and I don't use any of this hero sensor calibration. And then in the advanced tab, if you want to, you can change the liftoff distance. I just leave it on medium. But after I set everything in here, I back out. And then one more thing to go over is the light force switch. I use optical only. If you guys want a little bit more battery life, you can change it to hybrid. And you can actually see here, it tells you the difference. So if I have it on optical only, it's approximately 51 hours on a max charge. If I have it on hybrid, it gives me 4 extra hours, up to 55. I recommend leaving it on optical only. And then gaming surface mode, I leave this checked. There's really been no difference for me, but if you're having issues with the sensor tracking on your mouse pad, you can try turning this off and on. So that's pretty much it. And then after that, what I do is I turn on the onboard memory mode and I make sure to select desktop profile that I was just editing, and then I can close out of this software completely. So in terms of battery life, the battery life on the G Pro Superlight 2 has been extremely solid. It is not as good as the original Superlight, in my opinion. I think my original Superlight lasted maybe like 1 or 2 days longer. And I think that's just because of the 2K Hertz polling rate on the G Pro Superlight 2 and the optical switches just makes it last a little bit shorter. But even then, this mouse still lasts me like a solid 5 to 6 days of constant use. One issue that I have had with the GPX2 is the discoloration on the coating. So the coating feels very similar to the original Superlight, but there's something different about it to where, I don't know if you can see it on webcam, but my left and right click, as well as the back of the mouse, is a little bit discolored. You can actually see that on the webcam as well. You can see there's a slight yellow tint to it, and I never eat at my setup, and I always keep my hands super clean, so it has nothing to do with that. My original Superlight never got discolored. Like even on the last day when I was switching out my original G Pro Superlight to the GPX2, my G Pro Superlight looked pretty much brand new. The coating wasn't discolored at all and it was still completely white. But I've only had the G Pro Superlight 2 for like a little bit over a month now, I think, and it's already discolored. So I'm not sure what they did to the coating. So obviously this doesn't affect the performance at all. It's just a visual thing. But if you're like someone who's cares a lot about aesthetics of your setup, then that might be something to keep in mind, because the G Pro Superlight 2 seems to get discolored a lot easier than the original Superlight. But yeah, my performance on this mouse has been pretty much the same as the original G Pro Superlight. If there is an advantage with the 2K Hertz polling rate, it's not something that I notice, but this is definitely a solid performer, and there's a reason why like 90% of pros use this mouse, and it's just because it's super safe and you can pretty much pick it up at any time. If yours happens to break or you lose it, it's mass produced, so it's just a really solid mouse. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you already have a G Pro Superlight, would I recommend upgrading to the GPX2? The answer is obviously no. The original G Pro Superlight will perform just as well as the GPX2. If you don't have a G Pro Superlight and you're looking to pick one up, then obviously go for the newer one. You get those optical switches and you get the 2K Hertz polling rate, so you might as well just go for the newer one. One thing to keep in mind is that it is $10 more expensive MSRP. The G Pro Superlight 2 is retailing for 159 USD. And I think the original G Pro Superlight retailed for like 150 USD, so it's like $9 more expensive. But, you know, it's really whatever. You can just wait for a sale, But if you really want to save the money, I'm pretty sure the original G Pro Superlight is cheaper now that the GPX2 is out. So if you want to save money, you can go for the original, but I would still recommend just going for the newest one. But that's pretty much it, guys. That was my review of the GPX2 super solid mouse, and I hope this video helps you guys out. If it does, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.